11, Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance.
Good morning. I like to start dramatic, but today I'm going to say that if you want a candles card to fill out a Joys and Concern, please raise your hand and Cynthia will bring it to you. And I'd also like to remind you to turn off your cell phones. In the dark of the womb, new life quickens and grows. In the dark of the soil, seeds wait for the call of spring. In the dark of the tomb, a mysterious hope waits to be discovered. In the restful and fecund dark, potential itself dreams of what it might become. And spring calls, beckoning life forth to cross the threshold into new existence. The pain of labor brings us forth. The insistent seed pushes through the soil. The stone is rolled away, and we emerge into this new world where everything is possible, and the future is so bright it hurts our vision, so bright we can't see it clearly, but we emerge nonetheless to see who we have been becoming all along. A screaming, wriggling new life, 2 fresh leaves stretching out to the sun, a line of light shining into empty cave and onto empty shroud as we dance from dark to light to liminal on this Easter day. We come together as community. Welcome. And welcome to all of our young people who are getting situated. It is really awesome to see you all here today. And you look great. Welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, the minister of this church, and I'm so glad that all of you could be with us today. On the internet and in these chairs, we are one community, united in our commitment to each other and our commitment to live out our principles in the world. And it's Easter Sunday, which is why so many of you look so colorful today. We Unitarian Universalists are a truly diverse group of people. We lean on the 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism to guide and shape our community life together. Simply put, those 6 sources are personal experience, the words and examples of wise people everywhere, world religions, humanist teachings, earth-centered spirituality, and Jewish and Christian teachings. Unitarian Universalism has its historic roots in 2 Christian heresies. Unitarians were pushed to the edges of Christianity because they cared about logic more than they cared about the authority of traditional teachings. And Universalists were heretics because they understood God's love to be so big that it couldn't be contained in one religious movement or one set of dogma. When these 2 trains of thought came together 80 years ago, they became bigger than the Christian heresies that formed them. Today, anyone committed to justice, liberty, and building community together in a loving way can be a Unitarian Universalist. Here today you will find atheists, agnostics, pagans, liberal Christians, students of Eastern religions, and many others. What unites us in this diversity is our commitment to each other through covenant and our vision of a better world for all of us. Because of the great variety within our movement, we aren't often as Christianity-centric as we're going to be today, but it is Easter. This can be an important day for many of us who have come to Unitarian Universalism out of traditional Christianity. It's a day that we can contemplate what we had to leave behind and what we have been able to bring with us from our religious past. I hope that no matter where you are on your personal journey, that you can come with us to this ancient Easter story with fresh eyes in the safety of this accepting community.
For holy days on which we recall the old stories, we light the flame. For Passover, which reminds us of the courage and strength of those seeking freedom in the past, we light the flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is our greatest challenge, we light the flame. For gathering today in this sacred space, we light the flame. For the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for our future, to be alive in our present. Good morning. I am Sarah, your service leader here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. We welcome you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1,000th Sunday with us, we are stronger because of your presence. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Our story for all ages today approaches a lot of the Easter themes, but from a little bit of a sideways approach. We're excited to do this story live this morning, so I would like to invite Reverend Tiffany and Wayne to join me. And while we get situated, let's sing one of our favorite songs, We Give Thanks. Please rise in body and spirit as we sing hymn 1010. Words are on the screen.
You may be seated.
One day in late spring, a baby cottontail bunny was snuggled in its underground nest of leaves and fur with its siblings. And this warmth and closeness was all she knew, because she had never left her nest. But on this new day, after a spring thunderstorm refreshed the land, the flowers were blooming and fragrant. And the little cottontail was the first of her siblings to venture out of the nest and stick her twitching little nose up into the spring air. The clover tasted delightful, and she felt such joy with the sun on her fur that she hopped and leapt and ran. When she finally settled from her run, taking deep bunny breaths, she found herself in front of the weirdest creature she had ever seen. Instead of fur, it had a slick, weird skin. Instead of ears and a face, it had a strange, smooth dome. Instead of big moving feet, just one odd, thin leg held it in the ground. The sight alarmed the bunny so much that she thumped her back feet in warning before leaping into the brush to hide.
Hello there, little bunny. Why are you hiding from me?
Hi there. Well, this is awkward.
It doesn't have to be. Come out, little friend, and talk to me.
And so the little bunny did just that.
What are you?
I am a mushroom, a fungal growth that typically takes the form of a domed cap on a stalk with gills on the underside of the cap.
Yeah, that does sound like you. I'm a cottontail rabbit, a small burrowing creature that stays huddled in its nest with its siblings.
Is that who you really are? You're not in your nest anymore, are you?
Oh, well, you're right. I guess now I'm a cottontail rabbit, a small burrowing creature that loves to leap and play in the sun and nibble on green things. Yeah, that's more like it.
and as she gave a happy little hop just because she could. And together, the mushroom and the bunny enjoyed the beautiful spring day. The mushroom would tell the bunny stories about changing seasons. The bunny would go investigate interesting things and then return to tell the mushroom about what she saw. The mushroom would try to explain to the bunny about what it was like to stretch long networks of its own self into the deep, dark earth. The bunny would try to describe what clover and dandelion taste like and what flowers smelled like. And sometimes they would just sit together in happy silence.
It's getting late, and I should go back to my nest, but I will come visit you tomorrow.
That would be lovely, my friend. Sweet dreams.
But when the little bunny returned to the meadow the next day looking for her mushroom friend, they were gone. The cottontail child began to search about the field, but then she realized that her mushroom friend did not have legs and feet like her. Her mushroom friend could not possibly be anywhere besides where they had been the previous day. With a tear in her eye, she realized.
I guess my friend is gone.
She made the best of the day even though she missed her friend. She found herself telling her entire bunny family about the mushroom and their stories. She imagined what it must be like to stay in one place all day long. Eventually, the rain drove the bunny family inside, but the next day when it was clear, the little cottontail returned to the place in the meadow where she had met her friend. She was so surprised when she found more mushrooms there. None of them looked quite like her friend. They had the same slick skin and weird cap, but they weren't quite the right shape or height.
Hello, my dear friend.
The mushrooms called out in a chorus, but with the same voice.
You know me?
Why, of course. We spent a good part of the other day talking about clover and dandelions and seasons and the rich dark earth. Don't you remember?
I do remember my mushroom friend, but you seem a little different from them. But you do speak with the same voice. But now there are many of you. This is very confusing, and I am just a small, young bunny. My mushroom friend was always so good at explaining things to me. If it really is you, maybe you could help me understand?
I would love to, my friend. Do you remember how when we first met, we realized how different we were from each other?
Yeah, of course. I hop around and you grow from the ground, and that's just for starters.
Yes, that is just one way that we're different, but an important one. You see, you're an individual bunny. You love cuddling with your siblings, but when you leave the den to eat your clover, the clover that you eat feeds only your body. You are separate from your siblings. But I am a mushroom, which means that this cap and this stalk are only a very small part of me. Deep in the earth, my networks of mycelium run far from this place, and all the mushrooms around us that you think of as individual mushrooms are still me. We look separate here in the grass, but down in the earth, we are connected.
I don't know if I would believe you, except that so many mushrooms are saying this to me at the same time. So I guess that means you really are all one mushroom under the soil.
The mushrooms all nodded in agreement together.
That's right, my dear cottontail. And even when these mushroom caps go away, because the water dries up or some creature decides that I would be a tasty snack, I still exist deep in the earth, resting until it's time to come up through the grass again. This is the way of the earth. Even when plants and animals die, microbes and molds and mushrooms like me return everything back to the earth so that it can come back as grass and soil and even sweet little bunnies like you. Everything we lose comes back to us in a different form.
Mushroom friend, is it okay if I still miss you when you're gone?
Oh, yes, dear, that's fine. A very normal feeling for a young bunny like you to have. But remember me in the stories that you tell, and hop and run for me in that joyful way that I love. And know that my spirit never leaves the beautiful cycle of life that we are a part of. I will always be with you, even when you don't see me.
And so the bunny and the mushroom spent another day marveling at the beauty and wonder of spring together, and many days after that, too. And every time that her mushroom friend changed, the little bunny just reminded herself that
everything we lose comes back to us in a different form.
The end. Thank you, Sarah and Wayne, for your help with today's story.
happy.
It would have been funny if I'd left that on. Do we have any candles cards? Okay. Well, it is a joy to have you all here today. Come to this community with all that you are. Your joys and concerns are welcome here. We share our moments of joys and sorrows together by using these candle cards when you're in person, or by emailing me at minister@hvuuc.org with the words candle card in the subject line. Please make sure to indicate whether you would like the card read aloud in the service, which is still being broadcast publicly on YouTube. For me, incoming reports about the atrocities and ongoing violence in the Ukraine, the subway shooting in Brooklyn, flooding in South Africa, and more, create a feeling of struggle in me. It's hard to know how to stay hopeful when there's so much going on. And I'm not alone in this heartache. This week, I was relieved to find the words of Rabbi Erwin Keller, who wrote a special prayer for before and after he reads the news, as a way of holding space for the multitude of feelings that we experience when we confront the pains and injustices of life. So I invite you in this prayerful time to breathe slowly and deeply and make this your prayer too. This is his prayer for after reading the news. I am yours, and all that is in this world is yours. Today I have read stories and seen images, but my knowledge is incomplete. I don't know how it all connects, but I know that I am connected to everyone. I take joy in their joy. I suffer with their suffering. If there is no role for me to play today, then let my learning leave me wiser and better prepared. And if there is a role for me to play, let clarity rise up in me to see it, even if that role is a humble one. Lift up the work of my hands in anything they might do for peace, for justice, for the wholeness of our planet, or for the betterment of my community. Just as you turned the curse of Balaam into a blessing, so may all my actions accrue to the good. Blessed are you who receives my prayer. Cynthia from the caring team will come light candles for you so you can stay in your seats. If you want a candle to be lit for yourself, a loved one, or a situation close to your heart, I invite you to make that request by standing or by raising your hand when loving kindness plays, which will happen in just a moment. Then I will acknowledge each of you with a motion of my hand, and then you can sit down or lower your hand after I acknowledge you. Our community will always be larger than what these four walls can contain. And so we light our first candle for you who are not in the building, but are ever in our hearts and minds. And we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and our minds. Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, all of you. Our musical offering is written by Nicole Nordman, a United Methodist minister of worship arts at First United Methodist Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In this song, Nicole is writing a letter to her past self, giving herself the advice, love, and acceptance that she needed as a young person growing up in a more fundamentalist form of Christianity. While the details of her story may be different from our own, her struggles with her religious past may be something that we can relate to. Let's listen to her letter, interpreted through Amy Kenley's voice.
Dear me, this is a letter to the girl I used to be. Dear me, there are some things that you should know. It's not my intention to embarrass or to shame you. What's inside the rearview mirror is closer than it appears. We do the best that we know how with what we have been given, and the difference between you and I is I've been given time. In time, you'll see. Dear me, this is a letter to the girl I used to be. Some things are not as simple as we said. Remember when we thought there were a handful of some magic words to pray, a guarantee and a down payment on a mansion. Remember all the rules we made about the body and the blood, the hoops we made them jump through, though he offers it to everyone. I'm so sorry. Do you remember now the things I said? I thought that I deserved my flag and safety, a place to learn the things I know I didn't earn. Bless their hearts, I'm sure it's hard, but handouts don't help anyone. And all the talk about the system, I sure hope someone can fix them. I said those things. separate you from the love of God who made you just exactly as they meant to. And you cannot imagine all the places you'll see Jesus, but you'll find him everywhere you thought he wasn't supposed to go. So go, and hold all the mothers whose babies bleed from bullet holes, and feel all the hunger, the bellies and the bones. Shout for the prisoner, cry for justice loud and long, and march with the victims as Jesus marches on. And sit at all the tables, 'cause Jesus eats with everyone, and dance to the music if you can't sing its native tongue, and cry for the wombs, the mothers and the empty arms, and hold high the warriors fighting out for freedom's song, and love, 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 love like it's your own blood. Love, 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 love as you have been loved. Love, 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 love like it's your own blood. Oh, love, 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 love as you have been loved. Love, 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 love like it's your own blood. Oh, love, 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 love. It's all about love. Love, 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 love. Dear me, you did not learn this in a day or two or three, so ask a lot of questions. But Jesus loved this, I know, and there were no exceptions.
Huge thank you to Amy for that gift, and to Wendy for doing so much of the production work. If you could write a letter to your past self, what would it say? This is the question I've been asking myself ever since Sarah introduced me to this song. While the songwriter Nicole is a Christian, she has made it very clear in an interview that she gave to Song Facts that her Christian faith as she experiences it nowadays is very different from the Christianity that she grew up in. In the song, she says to her younger self, "Remember when we thought there was a handful of some magic words to pray." In her interview, she explains that line by describing the prayer of salvation that she prayed in church at the age of 7. She was taught, and I quote her, that these magic words protected me from a fiery hell that a loving God would let me burn in forever if I didn't say them. I could write pages on how deeply disturbed I am by how much damage is still being done by fear-based salvation, how much unlearning a lot of us grown-ups are still doing. That process of unlearning is what has brought many of us here for today. Some of us, like Nicole Nordman, have engaged in this unlearning in a way that has allowed a continued connection to Christianity. While not in the majority, there are quite a few Unitarian Universalist Christians out there and in here. Others have found that making a clean break with Christianity to be a more healing approach, and there is still healing to be done. And there are a rare few of us who grew up in other faith traditions, which makes today's Easter exploration far less personal, but it is still a much needed exploration as we are all in community here with people who have experienced religious trauma, and because the predominantly Christian wider environment that we live in here in East Tennessee. These dynamics are not unique to this Unitarian Universalist congregation either. In fact, they are common enough in our movement that a 5-part religious education workshop series called Owning Your Religious Past has been developed to help us explore and process these connections. It offers some really productive inquiry about what we want to bring forward and what we need to leave behind as we continue to do all of this unlearning. Ironically, the Easter story itself is an excellent metaphor for our work to heal our religious trauma. Most of us here understand that the power of religious stories is not their literal truthfulness, but instead how they invite us to encounter deeper truths about the things that matter the most, but that are often ungraspable. Ideas like justice, love, and healing sometimes just need a good myth to get us started. And this particular myth, the Easter story, does not start with a miraculous resurrection. It starts with a tomb. It's tempting to start with the happy ending of the story, to skip the hardship and pain, to just find out how it ends. But the ending of the story rarely delivers unless we take the journey to get there. It is so very human to want to skip to the end, though. Growing up as an avid book reader, I did often succumb to the temptation to look at the end of the story when I just couldn't take the narrative tension anymore. I cared about those people, and I wanted to make sure they were okay. And in life, we do this too, wanting a quick fix to our emotional pain, often choosing avoidance or easy answers over the hard work of introspection and personal development. We are only human after all. As we seek healing, it is helpful, though, to remember that that happy ending is promised. But we start with tomb time. In the Easter story, the tomb feels like defeat. For Jesus' followers, there were high expectations when they entered Jerusalem to cheering crowds and waving palm fronds. Their understanding was that Jesus was not there for some spiritual, internalized salvation process, but was there to overthrow the Roman occupation and the local religious leaders who were corruptly profiting from the oppression of their own peoples. To be mourning his death a week later, in hiding, fearing that they would suffer the same fate, and with no promise of Israel's liberation in sight, this was a time of great grief for them. And we, in our own woundedness, are no strangers to the grief and uncertainty of tomb time in our own lives. Many of us have experienced tomb time in the deconstruction of the faith of our childhood that was often characterized by easy answers or too many rules. Whether we found ourselves alienated from our religion because of skepticism or sexual orientation, a too broad interest in religious diversity, struggles with rampant hypocrisy, or being harmed by someone we trusted in the church, the experience of no longer belonging or no longer being safe in one's religious home is a form of tomb time. Grief is another tomb time, whether it be the loss of a loved one or a job, one's health, or an important relationship. And this pandemic that we are trying to emerge from has been a tomb time all of its own. Tomb time isn't pleasant, but it is useful. It's a place for self-examination. It's a chance to learn and to transform ourselves. Understanding how we've been hurt helps us understand how to not hurt others. And acknowledging our hurt and our vulnerability can help us cultivate compassion and empathy for ourselves and for others, which was modeled in Nicole Nordman's Dear Me letter so well. And in Tomb Time, we also find out what there is to sustain us when times are tough. We discover what's really important to us, what our values are, and who has our back. Starting in the darkness of the tomb is part of why I find the symbolism of the mushroom so compelling. These easily overworked little miracle workers take that which is dead and rotting, and they embrace the decay, helping the process of breaking things down into smaller parts so that later they can be recombined into something new. But that renewal cannot happen without the breakdown. Many people experience a breaking down, a deconstructing of the simple answers of the religion of their childhood before they can take what they need and piece together a more mature faith. Sometimes people from more conservative religious backgrounds see this as a loss of faith, but James Fowler, an expert on faith development, frames this as a natural stage in a person's growth, which will happen whether they leave their church or not. He calls this the individuative, reflective stage of faith. That's a mouthful. If you want to come find me, and I'll help you write it down later. If you want to research it, I will. The individuative, reflective stage of faith. It is characterized by taking a step out of your traditions and your beliefs so that you can examine them and evaluate them. Learning to think critically about these religious matters and then transform them into something that is personally meaningful is an important step in this journey. It is not the end of the journey, as it must seem to those who are afraid to question and afraid to change. Nicole Nordman's song models this process of deconstruction, which she calls unlearning, beautifully. And today we have another model of what this deconstruction can look like from one of our own. Sarah Sanders has written her own Dear Me letter and would like to share it with you now.
For my college self, you need to know you are enough. It's hard to feel right now because you have just left home and are starting something new. You have always been a rule follower, and this extended into your Christian faith. Each of your choices were weights that can tip your scale in the afterlife, and you worry you will never have enough. It's terrifying, and you're trying to exude confidence anyways because it is what everyone expects of you. It is what your parents expect, and it is what you believe God expects of you. You're scared you're not good enough. You make choices in order to reach a distant and unknown result. You're scared to learn anything new because it might take you in the wrong direction. You're scared to change because if you are so comfortable and safe now, this must be the correct path. Anything new or different is an attempt to take you from this confidence. You're scared to try new things because you're scared to learn you might be wrong. What if I told you it's okay to be wrong? You've been told all your life that you are worthless without God's unconditional love, and you must earn it with a prayer. But you cannot love unconditionally while placing conditions on that love. It feels so easy to tell someone you love them, but hate their actions and core self because that is your own feelings of loathing that you are projecting onto other people. You are full of worth, and you are enough. And I know it will take time to believe that. If there is anything you must believe, though, you must believe in your inherent worth. You are worthy because you exist. So meet new people. You will meet people who embody the love of Jesus while never saying his name. Listen to their stories. Exist in the moments that are happening around you because this is where love exists. People are surprising, so rely on them and don't be scared to ask for help. Read new books about not only your own faith, but the faiths of others. You are capable of change because adaptation lives inside your bones and your core self. Have patience because these things will take time. Discover for yourself what the concept of God or sacred means to you. Know that if at any point that definition denies the worth you have or the worth of any other person alive, then that is a definition that will not work. And finally, know that there is no end result. You are not the same person you were when you were a child, and you will be someone different in 10 years, just as I will be someone different in a decade or two. You are evolving every day, and each of those steps are beautiful. You are enough.
Thank you so much, Sarah. What if I told you it was okay to be wrong? You will meet people who embody the love of Jesus while never saying his name. Thank you for those words. I can see the work that you've put into this process, and I'm grateful that you would share your heart with us. This is hard work, but it's worth the work because it's the way that we move out of the tomb into the sunlight. Because when we do the hard work, we transform decay into fertilizer and bloom into new life, just like our friends, the mushrooms. This is the gift of the Easter story, and I don't think it's any coincidence that it comes during the spring when the entire earth reminds us that we are part of the cycles of renewal. Emerging from the tomb, embracing the gifts of the earth's renewal means embracing the kind of healing that comes from meaningful change and from telling our own stories. And we can do that here. We can start telling the stories of our religious trauma that makes healing part of the story. In Christy Gunter Sims' book, Survivor Care, she identifies that being able to tell your story in a way that celebrates your strength, resistance, and resilience is a key part of how you heal. We've been talking about doing this with religious trauma, but it really applies to all sorts of personal transformation work. This community mural project that the Religious Education Collaborative did is another example, using art as a vehicle to tell their stories about their pandemic experiences and our hopes for the future. Remembering, yes, remembering is part of it, but then we transform our stories to highlight our resilience. It is powerful to say, this is how I resisted oppression. It is powerful to say, I loved myself enough to leave. It is a new kind of liberating and powerful to say, this is what I learned. These are the useful parts that I'm bringing with me that couldn't be taken away from me. I keep working on my own story too, because clearly my story's not over yet. and neither is yours. I think about how I would tell my younger self to stop crying over all of my friends and family members that I was afraid were going to hell, especially when the only hell that I've seen evidence for is the one that we've created ourselves. And that's a hell we can do something about, and we dismantle it together every day. I would tell myself that being a doormat is not a spiritual position, and neither is being a judgmental killjoy. I would warn myself about the dangers of purity culture and how it would steal a good decade of my life away. I would tell myself that sin is real, but that it's not about sex and swear words and eating meat on Friday, but it's about racism and homophobia and transphobia and economic exploitation and trying to control women's bodies. I would tell myself that doubt and skepticism and uncertainty are sacred and are only dangerous to those authorities that would use religious beliefs to control others. I would tell myself that the physical world is full of original blessing, not original sin. I would tell myself that everything that I might lose by allowing myself to grow and change will come back to me in another form when I'm ready. And I would tell myself that even if I choose to give up the religion about Jesus, that there is still plenty of room in my heart, mind, and life for the religion of Jesus, an unflinching commitment to radical justice and unconditional love, because it is now and ever will be all about love. If you're in this deconstructing journey, if you're in the tomb mourning the harm that was done to you, and maybe even the harm that you caused, I want to roll away the stone and let a little light of hope in. Our resurrection is in freedom, healing, and continuing our story with love for ourselves and for others. Because the message of radical justice and unconditional love is letting the light in. This is the message of Easter that matters, and so are the ways that you're healing yourself. It's a process, and it's one that I'm so glad we're doing together.
For all those who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, may this day be another affirmation of divine love and promise. For all those who see the eternal story of new spring and life beginning anew, may you breathe deeply of a season of promise and hope. For all who are experiencing despair or hopelessness this Easter, may you find in the darkness or depression a doorway to light and warmth that offers you freedom. For all of us, together, we can do what no one isolated person can do. Rolling the heavy stone aside reminds us we are far more powerful than we ever could be on our own. Our offering of strong hands to help our prayers made real. Let us begin again to love. We thank you for being with us today. We hope that you are giving some thought to how you want to be a part of this community that works together. One way that you can support the work of your community is with a financial contribution. You can drop your check or cash into the donation bowls on the way out, or you can email your contribution to the address that shows during the closing announcements. Thank you for your support. An incredible opportunity to make a national impact is to join the social justice team and our youth to take the bus to Washington, D.C. for the Poor People's Campaign. The Poor People's Campaign is a direct continuation of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's work, as his focus shifted to the interconnectivity of economic oppression and racial injustice in his last years. The bus leaves June 18th, and we still need to fill 16 seats. You can find more information under events on our website, or you can talk to Bob Warner to learn more. You can also learn more about the many opportunities for fellowship, justice work, and working together by visiting our website, hvuuc.org, and checking out our news and events sections. Also, stick around after today's service for the kids' Easter egg hunt and photo ops with the Easter Bunny. They'll meet Sarah right out front as soon as the postlude is over. And we'll have coffee hour in the fellowship hall.
Y'all have been so patient and such good listeners. Are you guys ready to hunt some eggs? All right. You got to sit through one more thing, and it won't be as long as my sermon, but we're almost there. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for bringing your kids. Thank you for being conscious of everyone's different comfort levels in checking things out and checking wristbands before you hug. Thank you for sitting on this side of the room to make room for people coming in later. And thank you for your generous pledge of support to this church. Thank you for all the little ways you make life better for all of us who share the planet. It is such a gift to have you here. Next week, we will not meet in person. Are we meeting in person next week? No. Okay. I know someone's going to show up. I'm going to have a sign on the door. You're going to be very disappointed when you get here and no one else is here. The reason why we are doing this is that next week is our annual meeting. We want everyone who is a member of the church to be able to come to that annual meeting, and because not everyone is able to be with us in person, that means Zoom church and Zoom annual meeting afterwards. This is for 1 week only, and then we will move right into the annual meeting right after the service is over. Anyone is welcome to attend the annual meeting, but only those who have been members for at least 60 days may vote in the meeting. You can find registration information and Zoom links on our website and in your email if you've signed up for the e-news. The word benediction literally means to speak well of. And so this week, and every week that I'm here, I offer this beneficial diction for all of us, inviting us to spread the best parts of what we experience here out into the world. Today, I want to invite each of you to offer these good words yourself. If you're with us online, pause the video long enough to go find a note card or a piece of paper. If you're with us in person, you will find a note card in your bulletin, and I invite you to take that out and hold on to it now, and I offer my apologies if you didn't get one. You've heard a few Dear Me letters today, and now I ask you, what would your own letter say? What good words, what benediction would you send your past self? Or what good words would you send someone in the present right now who is struggling in the same ways that you did in the past? Think about it. What would you write? How would you fill this card? What did you need to hear, and what do others now still need to hear? Speak those words in your own mind. Imagine that they are flowing onto your card, and let those words speak back to you. What would you say to your past self? I invite you to spend some moments this week getting these words written down. Maybe you'll want to share it with me or a trusted friend later. Maybe you'll want to mail the card to someone who needs it. Maybe you'll want to burn it as a way of sending those thoughts to wherever they need to go. Our postlude this Sunday is completely instrumental. So take this time, these couple of minutes, to contemplate what you'll say, maybe even start writing it down. Whatever we do with these good words, may they flow into the cracked places of our hearts and the wounded places of this world, bringing healing and growth beyond the impact of the harms of the past. Go in peace, go in power, and go with love.